Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm GhostGirl and I played through and reviewed 104 games in 2024. Oh my god. In this video, I've compiled all of the reviews split up by month. Enjoy the compilation! Celeste is a beautiful, tough platformer with a touching, emotional storyline. When I say tough platformer, I mean tough. Ruthless at times. The game does give you encouraging messages though, and the variety of mechanics made sure the game didn't get repetitive. At first I didn't really know what was going on and why Madeline was climbing the mountain, but it became clear as the story progressed. Watching Madeline struggle with her mental health hit home for me, and it made me all the more determined to reach the top of the mountain together with Madeline. The devs definitely did a good job showcasing mental health issues. Highly recommend if you like a platforming challenge. Great game to either play with friends or leave open as a screensaver. The anticipation every time you receive a new duck is great. It's such a cute game. It's really fun, and it's not just a screensaver, as for certain achievements you do have to interact with the game. Now, why is it a good game to play with friends? You can just leave the duckies open on your screen while you can catch up with your friends and come up with silly names for the duckies. That's honestly the best part of the game. Definitely recommend. Duck you. Plants vs. Zombies is one of my favorite games of all time. When I saw it on Steam, I just had to get it for the nostalgia. As a kid, I always used to play this game on my Nintendo DS, and this is by far the tower defense game I have played the most. I love the huge amount of content this game has. Think of the Zen Garden, or the mini-games, survival mode, and puzzles, next to the main story mode. And even the story mode has a lot of replay value, especially since you have to replay it once to get an achievement. In the endgame content, things can get a little bit grindy if you want to 100% the game, but there's a nice glitch you can abuse in the minigames to quickly get that money. Pfidu has made a great video explaining this glitch, and I will put their video in the description. Overall, a great game. I love the art style, truly a staple to the tower defense genre. Highly recommend. Florence is a beautiful visual novel about a change, pursuing dreams, heartbreak, and healing. It portrays very well how difficult it can be to give up on dreams, as well as relationship conflict that can arise because of that. It shows how important it is to look at an issue from the perspective of one's partner, to respect one's decisions, and to communicate. The game itself consists of chapters that can easily be accessed through the menu, so you can always replay a section if you want to. I don't want to go into this game too deeply, as it isn't that long, and really is just something you should experience for yourself. I would recommend this to people who like visual interactive novels and stories about pursuing dreams and love. Alright, so I might say something very controversial here. Portal is meh. The portal gun is a very interesting mechanic and I really enjoyed using it, but I do have some gripes with this game. Near the end, once the environment changes, I had some difficulty finding ways to move through the rooms, which frustrated me quite a bit. The long loading times were terrible, especially when I died. I was stuck at the "you died" screen for multiple minutes on multiple occasions. The reason I am still somewhat reluctantly recommending this game despite my complaints is because it serves as a tutorial of sorts for Portal 2, along with the lore. I love the story and the characters, and playing through Portal definitely made sure I had emotional attachments to the reoccurring characters in Portal 2. Portal 2 is such a good sequel to Portal. The lore ties together both names so nicely. The character writing in this game is impeccable. Wheatley is a great addition to the existing characters, and GLaDOS gets an actual character this time. I like that there's also exploration to be done here rather than just the constant sterile test chambers of the first game. You also get to see what the old part of the facility looks like, which was really cool. In that section of the game, however, it's sometimes very difficult to find portable surfaces, which is my only gripe with this game. The ending concludes the story very nicely, and I would absolutely recommend this game to anyone who remotely likes puzzle games. After playing the co-op campaign, I can say I recommend the game even more. The co-op campaign provides very interesting complex puzzles and 4 portals to work with, since each of you has a portal gun. The lore that it adds is quite interesting, although I do recommend playing through the main story first. Oh, and absolutely do the bonus levels. The ending in that sequence made me burst out laughing. Honestly, I'm considering to make a whole separate video about the Portal games, so you might see that pop up on my channel at some point. Webbed is a cute 2D platformer that made me love spiders. The webbing mechanic took me a while to master though. After figuring out how it works, I had a blast moving around in all the different areas. The movement is so smooth. I love the prospect of having a sticker book for the collectibles as well. I also really like that the collectibles weren't that hard to find, since if you missed something in a room, it would show on the map. There's one thing I did struggle with: the clarity of some objectives. For example, in the anthill, where you must help connect the ant mech legs, it took me quite long to figure out I had to connect 2 different leg parts first before I could connect a fully built leg to the mech, simply because I went to a room that did not have the instructions first. The same goes for learning how to glide with a leaf. I would have liked to see the instructions in every room with a new mechanic, but maybe I'm just stupid. Overall, a great game. I really enjoyed my time with it, and I would definitely recommend. This game is part of a hidden object series, and I really like this one. My opinion on this game is the same as for 100 Asian Cats. Beautiful art, very fun to play, very relaxing, also very funny to see the name of every cat once the achievement pops. In the Asian and capitalist cat games, the names of the cat are the same theme as the game, which I really like. And I also like that there's a hint button in this game, unlike in their first game, 100 Christmas Cats, which I also still liked. The game itself is free, but you can buy the bonus level DLC for under €1, which I did for all 3 games. Overall, just keep it up. I'm looking forward to playing more of these once they come out, and I recommend these games to people who just want to sit down and relax and find some cute cats. This game balances the town builder and roguelike aspects very well. Once you've done everything to take care of your cult, you can go out on a crusade and get a change of pace with the roguelike fights. The art style is incredibly adorable, the storyline is great, and the endgame content is also very compelling. Lovable characters, side quests varying in difficulty, and with the new update a whole new mechanic was added to the game. I would highly recommend this game to anybody remotely interested in starting their own in-game cult, or anybody interested in trying out both town builder and roguelike aspects in one game. You'll fall in love with this game guaranteed. If you want to hear me tell you more about how this game works, you should check out the video I made, which I'll link down below as well. The way Grease tells its story is magnificent. Absolutely gorgeous audio-visual presentation. The use of color combined with the beautifully composed tracks made the story all the more touching and relatable. This is a great way to represent the 5 stages of grief, and in combination with its not too difficult yet still entertaining puzzle platformer aspect, made this game just spot on for me. I would highly recommend this game to anybody who wants to play a game with such an amazing, touching story. On a more light-hearted note, the forest friend you meet in chapter 3 made me so happy. Such a cute little guy. I was so sad when I had to say goodbye to it at the end of the chapter. If you want a more in-depth analysis on how Greece uses the 5 stages of grief to tell its story, definitely go check out the video I made on it. It will be linked down below as well. This game is still in early access as of writing this review, and it is noticeable in some areas, namely the co-op feature, which is pointed out by the devs when you start playing. I am very curious to see what Satisfactory will look like when it's fully finished. Right now, it's already in a good place, and from the little I've seen from it so far, I can tell there is a lot of depth there. The complexity of building certain factories can be quite overwhelming at times, which is not a bad thing, and just goes to show how well you have to think out your building plan. There is an engine to help you calculate what you need, but it's a bit overwhelming for me to properly use, so I've mostly done the math myself so far, which will probably change as I play more of this game. This is definitely not a game to relax to, in my opinion, as it really does require some brain power to properly build these factories. I do really like how constructing buildings works in this game. It's quite easy to grasp. The game also has clear goals to work towards. Also, there are many in-game shortcuts like copy-pasting factories, a search bar, and a simple calculator. In short, the game can be overwhelming at times, but it's great fun. RoboQuest is a masterful roguelike that feels good to play and has some amazing features. There are multiple robots you can play as, which you will unlock once you progress through the story. The storyline itself makes sense and has some nice humor in it. The regions are beautiful and easily distinguishable from each other, and each have a wonderful soundtrack. The amount of secrets in this game is massive, and the game invites you to go out and find these secrets, to go collect data logs, gadgets, and crystals, all with their own purpose and or buff. The difficulty is not as fine-tuned as I first thought, since I was recommended to play on standard mode based on the tutorial, but got my ass kicked every time I tried to play on that difficulty, so I turned it down. Co-op in this game works wonderfully, and one of the best features they added is individual health, energy cell, and wrench pickup. Usually, I mostly play roguelike shooters only in co-op, but with RoboQuest I was drawn to the solo mode as well. Overall, it has been a blast to play RoboQuest both alone and together with my partner. Very creative game. At the time of writing this review, it is still in the playtesting phase, and a lot of new things are still being added to the game, such as more blade customization and a story mode. Even in this limited creative mode environment, you can make such esoteric, out-of-this-world type blades. I see huge potential here, and I'm looking forward to playing the story mode to see if that will be any good. I made some wacky blades during the playtest. If you are interested in this game, join Bladesong's Discord server where they announce when playtests will be open. You can find the link on their store page on Steam. Awesome roguelike deck builder with a compelling story and interesting power-ups and perks. I love the choices you have regarding team builds and the type of ship you use. Unlocking new characters through playing with different team builds is something I can really appreciate, and it ensures you play with each character at least once. Each character really changes how you play the game, which gives the game a lot of variety, and the storyline itself is quite interesting but long to complete. I haven't completed it yet myself, but I'm currently working on that. You unlock one memory after every successful run, and every character has 3 memories to be unlocked. With 6 characters available, this means it'll take a total of 18 successful runs to get all the lore. It's a quite difficult deck builder, but very fun. My opinion on this game is the same as for previous releases in this Hidden Object series. Beautiful art, very fun to play, very relaxing, and also very funny to see the name of every cat once the achievement pops. I like that there's a hint button in this game. Keep it up, I'm looking forward to playing more of these once they come out, and I recommend these games to people who just want to sit down and relax and find some cute cats. Now, later this month, I played 100 RoboCats and 100 Dino Cats, but we're not going to talk about those in this video. You can check out my video about 100 cozy games, which I will talk about them in a lot more depth. The amount of content Risk of Rain 2 has is insane. I really like the diversity in characters and how different each one feels. Each has their own skill sets that provide unique gaming experiences. Next to that, there are so many items that I still haven't seen quite a few of them after 14.5 hours of playtime. The different items complement different characters, which ensures you actually have to pay attention to your build. The visuals in this game are stunning and the different maps feel distinct from one another. I have mostly played multiplayer up to this point and it works quite well. I could experience the DLC content in multiplayer a little bit since my partner has it, and I'm definitely getting it in the future since it adds so much to the base game. I would recommend to get some quality of life mods to optimize the gaming experience though. I am very new to the Risk of Rain franchise, but I'm already falling in love with it. The atmosphere and Inside immersed me fully into the game. Even though there is no talking in Inside, apart from some yelling, the story was told very well. The use of silent and visual storytelling is implemented beautifully, and the sounds that are used, like footsteps, really add to the immersion. My favorite part about Inside weren't the puzzles, but rather the environment and background scenes as I walked past them. Some puzzles are a bit vague, and to get the alternate ending you have to solve a very BS puzzle, so please look up the answer online if you want to get this ending, which can break the immersion a little bit, but the story is worth it and there are many good guides which can help you get through the confusing parts. This story with its creepy vibes is something I feel like people definitely should experience once in their lives. The puzzles were so-so. Most of them were just clicking the right buttons rather than an actual puzzle. The movement feels wonky. When I tried to move some handles, half of the time they moved halfway over and then went right back in their original position, which was quite frustrating. The story itself started out great with an amazing science concept about discovering another element, null, but around chapter 4 it became too vague and more so focused on other aspects than science for me to understand. The vibes are there, the concept is there, the execution is just not great. It's a good time killer and not entirely bad, especially if you're new to puzzle games, but I'm glad I bought it on sale and not full price. This is a short and charming game, reminiscent of older arcade-type platformers and older Mario platformers, while still having its own identity. There's 5 levels which each add something new and keep things from becoming too repetitive. The main goal is to collect all carrots in each level by using your focus ability to reveal the carrots. You won't be able to progress to the next level unless you've found all the carrots. There are very few checkpoints, but in a short game like this, I don't think it's necessary to have many. It took me about an hour to finish this game, so don't mind Steam's messed up playtime. Very fun. The soundtracks and visuals are nice, and I would definitely recommend this game. I cannot recommend this game in its current state. I've experienced multiple crashes, and the game is very poorly optimized. Next to that, there are too many cutscenes, which makes the end of the game results take ages to be finished. Friendly fire kills you in 1 or 2 hits and is ruthless, even with just a regular gun. The tutorial failed to prepare me for how actual missions work, and we could not figure out how to complete certain mission types at first. The missions itself are fun and I do enjoy playing those, but with all the issues this game has, it's just not as enjoyable as it could be. The one thing with the missions is that they are not very well balanced. There is a way to gain a lot of XP and medals very quickly that is not intended by the developers, and I expect this to be patched eventually. The robot missions as a whole are a lot more difficult than the bug missions, and if you're not playing with 4 people, you're also going to be at a disadvantage because the enemies do not scale. Also, there are little to none accessibility settings, and I haven't even mentioned they use an anti-cheat engine that has privacy leaking issues in the past. I really do hope they fix some of these issues in the near future, and if they do, I will review Helldivers 2 again. Cyberhook is a platformer with a hook and a gun that you shoot blocks with to free your path. The movement feels very smooth. The grappling hook can latch onto most surfaces and has a limited range, so timing and precision are very important. At the end of each level, you get a ranking from 1 to 3 crystals depending on how fast you were. These crystals are needed to unlock new levels and progress the actual plotline, because surprisingly it does have one, although not very important to the overall game, yet quite cute. In short, you are collecting the crystals for a cute robot to escape the world of Cyberhook, but you have to stay away from them. This ominous villain is the one who places the blocks and green eyes in the levels. If you're into speedrunning, this is the game for you, since it has a whole speedrunning tab in the options and a leaderboard for every level. This game is very fun, it has nice music and simple yet effective movement tech. The Exit 8 is a short but fun game with horror elements. In this game, you walk through a corridor with a man walking the other way, some posters on the left wall and some doors on the right wall. You'll need to see if everything is normal, and if it is, you can go ahead and walk forward to the next floor. If you notice something's off, you have to turn back and walk back the way you came from. Certain anomalies, like the door opening and the camouflaged man running at me, gave me a jump scare the first time I saw them. It's very important to look for the tiny details every time you enter the corridor, and to be quite honest, I just memorized a guide for all of the anomalies and then had fun playing it. I could not be bothered to figure out all of them myself. It's a super fun game, especially if you stream it to friends and try to find the anomalies together. Turnip Boy Robs a Bank is the sequel to Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, which I played in 2023. I was super hyped for the sequel and bought it as soon as my wallet allowed me to. In this game, you play as Turnip Boy and you join up with the Pickled Gang to rob a bank, but the bank holds more secrets than just hidden vaults. The sequel has roguelike elements and every run is tied to a timer, which creates a fun and addicting gameplay loop. You can get massive money yields per run, and seeing that number go up as you get upgrades feels good. Even though the genre of game is very different from the first game, I feel like Turnip Boy Robs a Bank is a good sequel. The story makes sense and elaborates well on the pre-existing world of the Turnip Boy franchise. I enjoyed spending my time in the game and seeing familiar faces while also meeting new ones. Among Us. Who doesn't know this game by now? This game was super popular in 2020 during quarantine, which is also the time that I played it most. I got this game on the Steam sale last year just for nostalgia, and at the start of March, me and my friend group decided we were going to play it again. Playing Among Us now, with the same friends, was such a throwback to quarantine times when we used to play this almost every day. It's still very stupid and silly, and has some added content now. A few maps, a new game mode, which is hide and seek, and also 2 cosmetics trees. Setting up your friends against each other is still hilarious. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is a different gaming experience set in the same world as Ori and the Blind Forest. Between these 2 games they changed quite a bit and it does not always work in their favor. I personally preferred the upgrade system in the first game, as well as being able to manually save. The Hollow Knight-esque life shard upgrade system did not fully sit right with me, but I do really love the storyline and different abilities that you learn through the spirit trees along the way, and I feel like they did a good job on making the areas distinct from the first game. It truly does feel like a different environment, while also having that nostalgic feel of similar enemies and vibes. Giving Ori a sword is not something I was expecting, and the amount of combat in the second game was a bit too much for me in comparison to the first game. The NPCs were lovable characters though, and overall it's a good successor to Ori and the Blind Forest. Broken Age is a story-rich game with a lot of intriguing puzzles. I really loved how the story makes itself clear to the player around the end of Act 1 and finishes off the story with a nice ending. I don't want to go into the story too much, since it's really something you should experience for yourself. Just know that Shay and Vela are funny, lovable characters. I really liked the mechanic of being able to switch between these two characters at will. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of point-and-click movement systems, but for this game it works well enough, although I would have liked to move around with my keyboard arrows or a controller. I would definitely recommend this game though, since the story is what really makes it shine. Sheepy is a platformer game where you play as a sheep plushie moving through the ruins of an old worksite. Sheepy may be a short platformer, but it left a deep impression on me. The music and sound design in this game are fantastic, the environment makes for beautiful visual storytelling, and the narrative is enigmatic and very well written. Slowly learning what may be going on in Sheepy's world through the notes and tapes left behind by workers is such a clever way to convey this story. The abilities you gain throughout the story work amazingly as well. I really loved this gem and I am very glad I found it. It's free on Steam, but if you want to support the developer, there is a supporter pack you can buy. I recommend you watch my Sheepy playthrough if you want to fully see how I felt while playing through the game. Power Hover is a fun little game that is perfect for on the go. I tried it on the Steam Deck and it works perfectly. I don't mind the difficulty spikes too much, I just think the bosses are very difficult, which suits the game quite well. I had a blast going through all the levels, and finding out there's a challenge mode to unlock some new characters using bolts was also awesome. Along the road of the regular levels you will also find portable music players, which show you part of the lore of the Power Hover world. This game has more content than it seemed to have at the start, and it's such a shame it's so underappreciated. I definitely recommend giving this game a try, because it's great fun. I'll be trying to perfect my boss runs while commuting. Overall, I have a mixed opinion of Hollow Knight. For some reason, my laptop did not like it. I suffered from input lag a bit while playing and it really frustrated me. Turning VSync off helped me a lot with this problem, by the way, so after I disabled that, my laptop liked the game a bit more. Despite this little issue, I do really love the art, setting, and story this game offers. It made me want to continue playing, even in moments I considered quitting. One thing I would have liked is more benches in areas that have very few, but that's just a personal preference, and I see why the developers made it the way they did. I do recommend this game since most issues I have with the game were really on my end, so do play this difficult, beautiful Metroidvania. I'm definitely eagerly waiting for Silksong to come out alongside the other Hollow Knight fans, and I still have more than enough content to play through while we wait. Wow, the potential Helldivers has is massive. I can see now why they made Helldivers 2. I haven't played very much of Helldivers yet, but man do I love it. One issue I have is the shared camera feature, since if you get left behind you get put off camera and you can't see where you're going. Though that feature is awesome for couch co-op. But I do really love the upgrade trees in this game. They're absolutely amazing. I really wish they implemented the same system in Helldivers 2, but they had to make it somewhat different from their first game, I guess. Matchmaking works the same as in Helldivers 2, and I really like the progression system here, which consists of getting research points and using those in the upgrade trees. You get these research points by leveling up, and 1 for every 10 samples you find. I'm definitely planning on putting more hours into this game. It's a great alternative if you cannot afford Helldivers 2, and since the release of the sequel, I think it's gotten more attention.
The player base gets a solid 2,000 players every day, so you'll always find someone to play with. Bluefire does not want to agree with me. The controls and abilities feel clunky, and even if I try to implement the tools I've been given in multiple ways, I still get the same clunky result. The game itself looks fine, it's nothing too memorable. I really like the voids though, and the story the game tells. For now, I will retire this game until I feel like coming back to it again in the future. If I play it again, I'll review it again as well. My experience left me extremely disappointed, since this is the very first game I've ever played that I do not want to roll credits on at the moment. For now, I won't recommend Bluefire. Unpacking is a very relaxing, beautiful game while also silently telling a story about the person you are unpacking the items for. Seeing them go through life is super interesting, since you never know what items from the previous move will still be with you in the next move. As someone who loves organizing and interior design, this game was made for me. It's super fun trying to find the best ways to store things while also trying to make things look pretty. This combined with the story of your protagonist makes this one of my favorite cozy games I've played so far. Slime Rancher is a delightful game about a chill life on the far range. I loved all the different slimes you could collect and combine into Largos. My favorite slime is the puddle slime. They're just so cute, especially when they blush. There's a lot of content in this game, and even though I have 100%ed it, there is still a lot of stuff I haven't done. The progression system in Slime Rancher is very nice. The different areas on the ranch become accessible once you earn enough money, and this way you'll also unlock the science area that will get you more resources. For progression outside of the ranch, feeding Gordos that drop slime keys is very clever. All areas are very distinguished from each other, and different slimes living in different areas really makes it feel like all biomes are necessary in the game. I really recommend you play this game, because you'll get attached to your beautiful farm in no time. I can't wait for the sequel to be fully finished to catch some more slimes. Titanfall 2 is an awesome shooter with a well-made storyline. The movement feels very smooth, and it's a blast to move around in this game. Having multiple loadout options for your Titan and being able to pick up any gun made the game diverse and never boring. The combat feels sharp and is not too difficult to get the hang of. The story itself complements the other game aspects very well and has a very touching ending. Seeing the bond between Cooper and BT develop over the course of the story campaign is very lovely. There's also multiplayer in Titanfall 2, but I haven't played that yet. Even though this game's a little on the older side, it's still magnificent. Buckshot Roulette is a very interesting version of Russian roulette with very varying consumable items. With a certain amount of defibrillator charges every round, this game has a nice health system. All of this makes Buckshot Roulette a nice balance between luck and chance, which never feels unfair. The gameplay is very addictive, and that only increases once you unlock Double or Nothing mode. This mode adds a lot of different new items to the game, as you can see in my footage, which makes the game even more interesting, since you really have to think about chance in combination with what you can do with the items at hand. Content Warning is a hilarious game that reminds me a lot of Lethal Company. It's fun to go into the depths to film silly content with your friends and then see the SpookTube comments when you're watching the video you made. I highly recommend getting some friends together to play this with and get some laughs out of everybody. I will say the game did not entirely entice me to keep playing for longer periods of time, and as I mentioned, it does kind of feel like a Lethal Company clone. However, since there is still new content being added to the game, I do recommend you check it out. Milk Inside a Bag of Milk Inside a Bag of Milk is a short visual novel with a sinister theme. I would advise you to take your time with this story so you can appreciate the vibes and storytelling more. It seems silly on the surface, but if you look into the text, you'll realize it's deeper than you first thought. After playing through the game yourself, I would highly recommend you watch my video analysis on Milk Inside a Bag of Milk. I definitely want to play the sequel in the future, and I'm curious how that game expands on Milk Inside a Bag of Milk. Little Misfortune is a very well-made point-and-click story game. It advertises itself as psychological horror, and there are certainly elements of that in the game, although I did not think it was that scary. It has very dark themes though, and I think the game portrays them very well through the eyes of a child. The ending is a good kind of plot twist, since the story drops hints about it from the very beginning. There's also lore to be found about the overall world that are more so for the player rather than for Little Misfortune herself. The art style suits the game very well, and the choices you make actually impact the way the story goes. By the way, if you have a cat, be careful with playing this game around them. There are a lot of birds on the screen all the time, and my cat had a lot of fun trying to catch them. Robonauts is a visually stunning arcade game that's, in my opinion, very underrated. I see people commenting on the difficulty of this game, and I agree. Some levels are very hard, it exponentially gets harder. But that's the whole point of arcade games. You're supposed to die quite a lot. The music in Robonauts is banging and really helps tie everything together. I like that there's a lot of variety within the 12 levels this game has, as well as a hard mode and mission ranks. However, this game is not perfect. You cannot manually aim, the game aims for you, and I can see why some people would not like that. The story in this game doesn't really matter, which is a shame, but it is better than without one at all. Some enemies are not balanced very well. The eye monster that shoots a lot of bullets at once can 2 or 3 shot you, and if you don't see it coming, you're pretty much dead. Also, the flying enemies that try to home in on you spawn more quickly than you can get rid of them. I'd say that if they implement a few balance changes, a leaderboard, and a Steam cloud save, Robonauts would be a banging game. I still recommend playing it though, maybe even with a friend, since it has a local co-op mode as well. Samudra, which means ocean in English, is a very graphically beautiful game. It's like a walking simulator with puzzles to solve, some mandatory and a few optional ones. The art is very well done, although sometimes the animations are a bit stiff. I did encounter a few issues while playing, mostly having to do with the game not registering some waste pickups. The music adds so much to the atmosphere of Samudra, it really complements it. There's 2 different endings, but the animation for after you reach land again are the same for both. I would have liked to see 2 different animations for this. This game is by no means perfect, and you should not expect high quality platforming aspects, but I would highly recommend this game to people who love atmospheric walking simulator type games. Aspire Ina's Tale is a surprisingly nice puzzle platformer game. The game looks beautiful, and together with the lovely music, it creates a nice tranquil vibe. Ina's story is abstract and inspirational, which I really like. The characters you meet along the way all have their own personality, and I really like that. Even though you don't see them for very long, I do feel like I know them all. There's one gameplay issue I encountered. I had difficulty picking up some of the small, movable blocks, especially in the dungeon area. Next to that, I would have liked the game to be a bit longer since it's so good. I would have loved to see more areas of the tower since we only really got to see 3. The puzzle elements were very nice though, and I liked the various crystals needed to progress through the puzzles. Overall, Aspire is a very enjoyable game. Atone Heart of the Elder Tree is a wonderful game about a girl who's been through a lot of loss in her life. I feel like the game portrays grief and loss very well. I am also glad it mostly stuck to the actual Norse mythology. Finding the lore notes is fun, and the animated lore book that sometimes appears when you interact with characters is very neat. One thing that they could have improved on is the voice acting. Some characters did it very well, others were mediocre at best. The art is stunning and there is so much to do that you cannot see everything in one playthrough. It makes sense since there are 4 different endings to the game. The puzzles are fun and challenging as well. The rhythm game aspect of a tone works really well, and especially in the arena battles, things get very difficult since you have 4 different buttons to press. It provides a nice challenge for the ones interested, yet is not mandatory for people who are not as good at rhythm games like myself. I highly recommend you check this one out. The LEGO Ninjago movie video game is definitely something. As this is my first LEGO game I've ever played, I had slight difficulty figuring out how to build things at the start of the game, but I got the hang of it as time went on. The story itself is okay, but the movie itself is a lot better. I got quite some whiplash from seeing the movie cutscenes mixed in with the game, as there is a high quality contrast and different voice actors. The gameplay itself is quite boring. Just spam X and you'll get through the hordes of enemies. I played most of this game with friends present, and it's fun to laugh together about some aspects of the game, and I do think this would be a lot better in co-op mode. It's worth checking out if you're a fan of the Ninjago franchise, but if you're not, I would pass up on this game. Barotrauma is a very fun game to play with friends. The different roles you can play are all well distinguished from another, and I like that you can still fulfill parts of different roles than your main role. The game has a very high skill floor though. You can't really play without having done the tutorials for every role available, and even then I keep getting my ass beat on 15% difficulty. There are a bunch of advanced settings you can toggle on and off, so there's a lot of modifiers for higher skilled players to mess around with. I like that there's a lot of different mission types as well as a campaign I have yet to complete. Things can get a bit stressful though. Overall, this is a great game to play with some friends if you are willing to put in the effort to learn the game and its mechanics. Thronefall is an amazing strategic tower defense game with great resource management aspects. I love the different maps that are available, so the game does not get boring. What also is very neat are the many different perks and modifiers, which ensures you can play around with your build and strategy a lot. There's also an endless mode, which is cool, since it gives you 3 different maps plus perks to choose from. Finally, for people who want even more content, there are mini-modes separate from the main game objectives. They need some more balancing, but are a great idea. The music complements the game and its simple yet beautiful graphics really well. Recently a new map was added, which is really fun to play on, but I do give a warning to people with arachnophobia. It definitely needs some balance changes and bug fixes still, but it shows that Thronefall is entering its final stages of early access and should be on the road to full release very soon. Worms WMD is a super nostalgic turn-based strategy game. Personally, this is the first time I've played a Worms game, but from people around me, I've heard more than just this edition of Worms is really good. This really scratches my turn-based strategy itch, and it reminds me of a silly flash-type game I used to play as a kid called Raft Wars. There's tons of items you can use and craft to eradicate enemy worms, which get increasingly more ridiculous. I'm looking at you, Concrete Donkey. It does take a while to learn how the game plays, especially since it's a bit older, but it's definitely worth it. If you're looking for a Worms game that has a lot of online matches, I would choose another one though, since it can take quite a while to be matched with someone. I do recommend it for the campaign and all other single-player extras, as well as multiplayer with friends. I will note, and this might be because it's an older game, I could not make it full screen without a border for the life of me. After enjoying the base game for Risk of Rain 2, I decided to buy the DLC Survivors of the Void not too long afterwards. In May I got the chance to finally properly play it. I'm really enjoying the contents and characters that were added. Void Fiend is really overpowered, and I really like playing with him. I've been familiarizing myself with the game more and more, getting all the monsoon-related achievements with my partner, and as a result collecting a bunch of achievements for the characters themselves. We've been having fun breaking the game and doing runs up to stage 40, where we literally only have to stand still and everything on the screen will die anyway. It's been fun discovering secrets and lore-related things along the way as well, like me going so fast that I accidentally got the achievement related to finding Ankuhana's altar because the game thought I was down in those caves while I was actually just high up in the sky. It's been a wild ride and I can't wait for the new DLC to come out for more Risk of Rain related shenanigans. Spookies is a silly horror game about going from room to room while being chased by monsters. The way the specimens are introduced with their own themed rooms is really cool and really set the right vibes. The cutout jump scares were more annoying than scary, as they sometimes blocked my way while trying to run from another specimen. If you don't like jump scares like that, there's an option to turn them off in the settings though. The ending was pretty cool. I won't give away any spoilers about that in case some of you haven't played Spookies yet, and I enjoyed playing through the main story. There's also more content in the form of Karamari Hospital and the Dollhouse, but I haven't checked out those two areas just yet. It's a really fun game to stream, and I would recommend you play through the main storyline at least once. For the people with a VR headset, you can now also play Spookies in VR for even more added spooky vibes. Starbound is a very interesting game with a lot of Terraria-inspired elements. I really like the different species you can choose to play as, although they could have put a little more variety in regards to spawn weapons. One of the species spawns with a gun instead of a broken sword, but all other species spawn with the same stuff. Every planet is randomly generated, which makes sure you never run into the same thing twice. It makes it harder to find certain materials since they will never be in the same place, which provides a nice challenge. The crafting system is simple and easy to understand. I have not played enough of the game by far to write a very in-depth review about it, but I will put my so far positive experience out there until I do play more. You should pick this game up, especially when it's on sale if you like games like these. Schim is a very unique 3D platformer where you play as a schim, or shadow, or ghost. The mechanics are easy to grasp and they make sense. Everything works very smoothly and the level designs are great. There are a bunch of collectibles to find on almost every level, which makes the game even more interesting. The different color palettes are nice, although sometimes they are a bit bright. Also, there's a storyline which is told very well through the animations. The game definitely needs a bit of polishing, but I'm sure that'll happen before the full game's release in July. I love the environments, they're very Dutch and make me feel right at home since I am Dutch as well. I'm looking forward to the full release and I can't wait to play more of Schim. Make sure to tune into my video on June 9th to watch me play an exclusive preview of the game. Cat and Onion is a short, sweet game about a cat that goes on a quest to make pancakes and help their squirrel friend, together with the otherworldly Onion. The dialogue is funny and sweet, the graphics are nice, and it's very good to relax with. The secrets are not very difficult to find, but are still a nice touch. The mechanics are fun to play around with, and using pancake ingredients to reach certain places is very unique. The one thing I did not really understand why it was added were the word of the day sections, but other than that, Cat and Onion is a must-have game, especially if you love cats. If you want to watch me play through Cat and Onion, you should watch my video on the full game. Machinica Museum takes what the room tried to do and bettered it in many ways. I love how all the puzzles intertwine and you are working towards a greater goal. The lore of the game makes sense and enticed me to wishlist the sequel, Machinica Atlas. The mechanics work and are smooth, although I did encounter a couple of puzzles that were hard to move around in later chapters. It breaks the immersion a little bit, but not too much. The protagonist has useful commentary as well, like mentioning to use previous puzzles to solve your current one. I like how the printer puzzle is later needed to solve other puzzles, and in general I really like the mechanics of the printer, mini camera, and screwdriver. They spice up the puzzles and make Machinica stand out from other escape room-esque puzzle games. I got this game when it was 100% off, but I still think it's worth paying for it, especially on sale. I can't wait for Machinica Atlas to come out to see how the lore intertwines with Machinica Museum. Virtual Cottage is a fun and relaxing application to use when you're supposed to be focused instead of playing games. Having this application running makes sure I don't get distracted and hop on Steam to play a game instead of study. There are some achievements related to amount of time spent working to keep you motivated, as well as some other features like pressing P to see your total time in the cottage. I really like that I can make a to-do list in-game and use the application while it's running, instead of games like Forest where you can't touch anything. Having Virtual Cottage up is a really nice way to keep the workflow going. The music is relaxing and motivating as well. Do you want to be a menace to society without consequences? Do you want to play as a species commonly referred to by the community as a duck? Do you want to earn a crown for your achievements? You've come to the right game. Untitled Goose Game provides this, plus a lot more fun gremlin activities that make the town hate you. It's super fun to play and brings out everyone's inner goose. There's also a multiplayer option, so if you want to be menaces together, feel free to do so. I love the to-do list system the game's quests are, and it feels satisfying to complete an area this way. The quests also become increasingly more hilarious the more show up on your to-do list. I've never had more fun terrorizing people than I had when playing as this goose. I do recommend you play this on a controller, since it's way easier to play than with keyboard. Milk Outside a Bag of Milk Outside a Bag of Milk expands on the first Milk game tremendously as a combination of visual novel and a point-and-click game. I stand by what I said about the first game. Take your time with it. Milk 2 is definitely more philosophically dense, and it needs a bit more time to really grasp what's going on. The art style is a lot more detailed than in Milk 1, which gives us a better idea of what Milk Chan's life looks like. The transition between Milk 1 and Milk 2 is seamless, as they play out right after each other. I'd say it's a must-play game if you've also played Milk 1, but definitely play Milk 1 first before you play Milk Outside a Bag of Milk. I promised you all that I would make a second analysis after playing through Milk 2, and that one will show up on my channel at some point during the summer holidays. Rayman Legends is an awesome action platformer which vibes remind me a lot of the Wii game Donkey Kong Country Returns. Unfortunately, it's an older Ubisoft game, so the game needs a bit of help before it can launch by adding in some files you can find online. As a result of this, you can't change the game's language at all. It picks the language of your Windows system. Because the servers are down, the online content no longer functions. I love how much there is to do in the game though. There's the Rayman Legends levels, including some speedrun levels and a few 8-bit variations on the music levels. There's the Rayman Origins levels you get from the scratch cards. There's creatures that generate money every day and a bunch more. I also love all the different heroes you can play as. I like the originality of the scrolls or pages you jump into, as if you jump into a story. I made it my personal mission to free all the teensies, and I'm happy to say that they are now all free to roam this earth. I highly recommend you play this game despite the hassle it is to get the game to run. I also wishlisted Rayman Origins so I can experience even more Rayman later down the line. Arise, A Simple Story is a touching, emotional tale about the life of a man and his wife. Throughout the game, we get to know this old man more and more by finding memories, which are collectibles, that give us a beautiful art piece each. This way, at the end of the game, we have a nice picture book that tells their entire tale. I fell in love with the art style and the cinematic storytelling. It's really well done and beautiful. The time-shifting ability is very fun and unique, and I like that it's implemented in multiple different ways. The only thing I feel like the game could improve on is the controls. Oftentimes they felt clunky and did not function optimally. Mostly this applies to jumping and climbing. Other than that, the game is a masterpiece and you should definitely check it out. If you want to see the full game's lore, which includes the opening cutscene, all of the memories and the ending cutscene, you should check out my video I made. I'll link it down below and in the cards. Dorfromantik is a wonderful puzzle game. It's very relaxing, the art style is super cute, and the gameplay is very addictive. One thing I take slight issue with, but I guess increases game time if you want to 100% the game, is that certain achievements are locked in-game. You can unlock these while puzzling by completing quests with a crown above them. It was quite frustrating at first, since I didn't know about it, and since I had already completed many of the achievements that were still locked in-game for me. If this matters less to you, this is the perfect puzzle game to relax with though. The different biomes help keep the game feel fresh. I especially really enjoy the moving parts of the tiles, like the trains and the boats. It's fun to watch them move throughout the path you made for them. By unlocking more achievements, you will flesh out your tile deck more and more, and also get fun tiles like a beaver dam or forest animals like bears. You also don't have to complete the session in one sitting. You can close the game whenever you want and you'll be put right back in where you left it. If you want, you can also save finished sessions or play in different game modes like creative mode. I highly recommend Dorfromantik. It's a great puzzle game and also works great on the Steam Deck. "20 Small Mazes" is a super fun, free puzzle game and totally different from what I imagined. All of the mazes are very diverse and unique, and I never felt like I was playing the same thing over and over again, and certain maze ideas are things I have never seen before. I love that there are interactable objects all throughout the game, which makes solving puzzles even more challenging and fun. Something very cute I would like to note is that one of the mazes is a drawing made by the developer's child. It's so sweet to play that maze, and I thought it was very charming. All of the mazes are not too difficult to solve, but they aren't too easy either. It's a perfect balance between challenging and relaxing. The only negative thing I found is that there is no music, however, not all games need it. 20 Small Mazes makes for a very entertaining hour of gameplay. Limbo is a difficult puzzle platformer that is all about silent and visual storytelling. I've also played through its counterpart Inside, and I have to say that Limbo's story is a lot more unclear. It follows a similar structure, namely consisting of different chapters and having secrets hidden among them. After finding all these secrets, in this game they're eggs, you unlock the pathway to the secret ending, which you can access through a certain chapter. I won't spoil here which one that is, but there are plenty of good guides out there that can help you with that. The use of silent and visual storytelling is still prominent, but less intricate than how it's done in Inside. Limbo is a generally more minimalistic game, yet has more brutal and gory death animations than Inside. I do think you should play both, since the two stories are believed by the community to be connected. Limbo's controls do feel slightly weird, like jumping feels off, but it's not too big of a deal. The puzzles themselves are challenging, but not too difficult to complete, because the real difficulty lies in finding all the eggs. In Bento is a super adorable puzzle game about a family of cats that make food for each other. There are a bunch of different bentos to make, and as a result there are a lot of different interesting puzzle mechanics. I like the way that they're introduced and that they're not introduced all at once, because even in later chapters you will still find new mechanics. My favorite one is probably the color blocking one, where the game will fill in all blocks with a certain color or food when you place it down. After each chapter, there's a nice cutscene that shows the life of our cute cat family, and there's even a hidden level at the very end of the game. It's a very cozy puzzle game that is harder than it looks at first glance. If you want to see a video of all the photos you collect throughout the game, I highly recommend you watch my video on it. I'll link it down below and in the cards. Murky Divers definitely feels like a crossover between Barotrauma and Lethal Company. I'd say that it's definitely a lot scarier than Lethal Company, but less difficult than Barotrauma. The game just got released and it's quite obvious. There are still a lot of things that need to be added and fixed, for example general UI improvements. I would also like to see some sort of tutorial area. The game is quite difficult in the way that there are a lot of different aspects to the game, like moving the submarine, collecting body parts and shredding them. These actions also have multiple components to them. I'd recommend you play this game with at least 3 players, otherwise you just won't be able to keep up with the amount of things you do around the boat and in the water. I really like the police system though, because it makes the game feel more distinct from the previously mentioned other games. If the game gets a few good, consistent updates, I can see Murky Divers take the internet by storm, just like Lethal Company did in 2023. It's hilarious with friends, the monsters are actually scary, and there is a lot of diversity in the gameplay. Oh Dear is a very silly multiplayer game that is very similar to Prop Hunt, but with a twist. You are either a hunter that is supposed to kill the imposter deer, or you are a deer trying to blend in with its environment in hopes of survival. Be careful to not let your hunger meter run out though, since the hunter will be able to see you walk on 2 legs. Keep eating those mushrooms, kiddo, even though they will alert the hunter of your general direction. Also, watch out for bear traps and mines. They tend to hurt quite a bit. If you're in a pinch and the hunter is about to get you, what do? You shit in their face and run off, of course. When you do win as the deer, this silly game will turn into a horror game for the hunter, as it will be chased by the remaining imposter deer turned wendigos. Will you make it to the cabin in time, or will you be brutally slaughtered by the wendigos? In Steam's last Next Fest, I played a bunch of demos and I made a separate video on them. I highly recommend you watch it to hear my full reviews of these upcoming games. I'll link it down below and in the cards. I'll give you a quick overview of which demos I played. Mind Over Magnet, a super fun platformer game about magnets. Kill Knight, a very smooth and responsive action shooter game. Goblin Cleanup, a hilarious game about cleaning up and rearranging dungeons back to their original state. I Am Your Beast, a first-person shooter game with incredible voice acting. And Caravan Sandwich, an exploration adventure game where your goal is to help your sister. Balatro is a deck builder roguelike based off poker. The amount of different jokers and other boosters like the tarot cards, planet cards, and spectral cards spice up your runs so well that none of them will ever turn out the same. The variety in different bosses and tags is nice too. There's always something new to discover in Balatro. The music is catchy and fits the game's vibes and art style really well. The gameplay is highly addictive and you can easily lose yourself in this game for hours on end. I love how the game ascends from regular poker to crazy hands that should be impossible, but they are not. There are no limits in Balatro, and I guess that is, for me, a huge part of why it's such an addicting game. You are constantly searching for new, game-breaking builds to break your high score and discover new things. If you like deck builder roguelikes or just poker in general, this is definitely the game for you. Milo and the Magpies is a super sweet, short point-and-click game about the cat Milo, who needs to travel back home through different gardens while magpies harass him along the way. It's hand-drawn by a Dutch artist, and I think it looks really beautiful. The different puzzles are very fun to solve, since they are all very different from each other and very well made. The different secrets you can find are cleverly hidden amongst the gardens and homes. It's very nice to get to see Milo's entire neighborhood and the diversity of the people that live there. The silliest one was definitely the neighbor who grows a certain green plant in his shed. It took me around 45 minutes to complete, and I think Milo and the Magpies is definitely worth playing, especially if you love cats. I really enjoyed my time with it, and I'll likely replay it again in the future. Milo and the Christmas Gift is a free spin-off on Milo and the Magpies, and it's a very nice addition to Milo's adventures. What I've said about Milo and the Magpies applies to Milo and the Christmas Gift as well. The game is hand-drawn, this time about Milo's adventures with the bunny Toby, and the puzzles are fun to solve. This time they mostly take place in one garden and the body of water behind it. The secrets are very well hidden and the puzzles are very clever. It was sweet to see the whole neighborhood come together in an effort to bring both animals home again, and it definitely pairs well with the Christmas spirit. Especially great since the game was released a few days before Christmas. It took me a short half hour to complete, and if you want to play this game, I highly recommend you play through Milo and the Magpies first. Firewatch is a very beautiful adventure-like hiking simulator where you solve a mystery along the way. You are stuck all alone in the wilderness, only being able to talk with one other person through your radio. The story that unfolds is very interesting and hooked me right into the game. I played it in one sitting, which took about 4 hours, and 100%ed the game in this time as well. The story itself is a tad creepy, very adventurous, at times flirtatious, but most of all, emotional. You learn so much about the characters while not even seeing them once, and I think that's very impressive. The music that plays while you're hiking alone is very lovely and gives off the perfect vibe to go along with the game. The map was easy to understand as well, and I think adopting the turtle was my favorite part. Firewatch is a very well made game, and if you like adventure type mystery games, I highly recommend you play this.
Someone left their clipboard out here.
Castle Crashers is a very fun yet difficult multiplayer beat-em-up game. You and your friends all play as knights that have different elemental abilities in order to save all the princesses that got kidnapped through sheer murder and magical shenanigans. The gameplay is fast and smooth, the music slaps, and the hand-drawn art is very adorable. The game scales very abruptly though, so you will have to grind for XP in order to progress. There is more to do than just the main campaign, which makes sure there's an almost infinite amount of playtime to put into Castle Crashers. It's a bunch of fun to play together with some friends and laugh your ass off while you're trying to rescue the princesses. I really enjoy the different items as well, like the moldy bread that makes you go crazy buff and strong, which is necessary to progress the game, by the way. It's a classic game that you should definitely pick up, especially when it's on sale for like 90% off. I would also recommend you buy the 2 characters DLCs, since those characters are very overpowered and also only €1 each. I believe the income from at least one of those DLCs goes to charity as well, which is obviously a massive reason to buy them. Schim is a very unique 3D platformer where you jump from shadow to shadow as a tadpole-like creature. A schim, which means a shadow or a ghost. You got separated from your human and now you need to find your way back to them through trial and error. Your poor human has not lived the easiest life and it shows. Will you be able to create new opportunities for them and let them follow their dreams? If you want to find out, you should watch my video series on Schim. I'll link the playlist down below and in the cards. The mechanics are super fun to play around with and are something I have never seen before in a platformer game. They are also easy to grasp and make sense. Everything works very smoothly and the level designs are great. There are a bunch of collectibles to find on almost every level, which makes the game even more interesting. The art is very beautiful and I love the different color palettes so much. The storyline is told very well through the animations. I love the environments, they're very Dutch and make me feel right at home since I am Dutch as well. I highly recommend you try Schim and enjoy yourself as much as I did. If you want to hear me talk more in depth about this game, you should check out my full review video. I'll link it down below and in the cards. Minute is a very fun, relatively short 2D adventure type game with puzzle aspects. You have 60 seconds to explore the world until the timer resets and you respawn in your house. Along the way, you can find things like upgrades, coins, secrets, and much more. The interactions with NPCs are fun, apart from that one guy, if you know you know, and give the game a lot of character. Personally, I'm a big fan of the lawsuit frog. This game is absolutely best played as unspoiled as possible, so I would advise you to go in blind like I did and look up a guide later. To fully 100% Minute, multiple playthroughs are needed, but each playthrough does not take more than a few hours. Minute is definitely a perfect game to sit down with for a few hours on a weekend day. I also really like the black and white pixel art style. I highly recommend you pick this up, especially when it's on sale. Visionsoft Reset is a very interesting timer-based Metroidvania. You can travel back and to different points in the game where you've saved by using the time tree. This results in a very interesting Metroidvania where you are always on edge since you don't want to run out of time. The upgrades you find along the way are a good addition to this type of game. The carts are also a fun collectible item. One thing I do want to note is that you can get fully stuck very quickly since it can be really unclear what to do or where to go next. Guides are your best friend in this game when you get stuck. The movement system turned out to be a lot more complex and fleshed out than I initially thought, and can create some very fun platforming action. Not all of this is explained by the game itself though, so you should definitely experiment to see what is exactly possible. The boss fights are hard but not too hard, and the lore of the game really ties the game together nicely. A great addition to the library of any Metroidvania fan. Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2 is Plants vs. Zombies in a quote-unquote new jacket. As someone who has only played Plants vs. Zombies Game of the Year edition before playing this game, this is a very nice way to keep in touch with the franchise. The servers are still surprisingly active, even though there's pretty much only 1 or 2 game modes you will mostly encounter. I love the variety within species, as well as the addition of new plant and zombie types. The new zombie types fit right in, but I did have to get used to the new plant types a lot. They look very different from the other designs. The shooter part of the game is actually quite enjoyable and feels solid. It's fun to do what the plants did in Game of the Year edition in first person. There's a little bit of everything in here, so anybody who likes Plants vs. Zombies will have something to enjoy. I haven't seen much of story mode yet, but I do want to play through that sometime. Overall, a very solid game from the Plants vs. Zombies franchise. Definitely get this when it's on sale. Kingdom Classic is a very addicting free introduction to the Kingdom franchise. It shows you the base mechanics quite well and then lets you explore the rest of its content without any hand-holding. Getting to Night 100 was definitely a challenge, and I still have a bunch of smaller achievements to get. The speedrunning achievements are definitely the hardest to get, and if you are like me and want to 100% games, I recommend using a guide for this. I love the art style, and can we talk about how pretty the library icon is for this game? The content itself is quite interesting, and defeating the greed is a nice challenge. It's a very good strategy game that you can easily sink many hours into. Overall, I only have good things to say about Kingdom Classic, and after playing this, I bought the rest of Kingdom's franchise. I have much love for this game. Kingdom 2 Crown is everything Kingdom Classic was, but better and also multiplayer. I loved playing this together instead of by myself like Classic, since you can get so much more done in one day than when you're by yourself. I love the Norselands DLC and also can't wait for the Call of Olympus DLC to come out. The one thing I do have to note is that this game has too little handholding. You basically get thrown into the game with no real explanation of what your end goal is, so prepare to be confused at the start. I tried looking for a good Steam guide for this game in English, but none of them were what I was looking for, so I might make one of my own in the near future. I recommend using the wiki if you get really stuck. What I do like is the amount of extra content 2 Crown has, like the challenge islands. I love this game and I highly recommend playing this one after Classic with someone else. We Become What We Behold is an interesting, interactable, short game that is mostly a political statement about how media influences people. It shows the negative cycle of how media can portray and/or interpret things wrong and induce anger, sadness, and fear in people. After playing through this, I remembered how important it is to keep an eye on your mental health and that you should not feel bad if you need to step away from reading or watching the news for a while. I highly recommend people play through this free interactive media to spread more awareness about this topic. Lightyear Frontier is still in early access, yet already feels very polished in what it has to offer currently. I did not encounter any bugs and multiplayer works very well too. I'm usually not a big fan of open world sims, but this one managed to hook me right into it. I think part of why that happened is that the gameplay is very balanced between story progression and free roaming. The main storyline is very fun to complete, yet does not require massive grinding apart for a few mech upgrades. All other upgrades are easy to get in free roaming time and are purely quality of life improvements like a better hose for farming. The free roam aspect is quite nice since there are not really any moments where you are locked out of being able to do whatever you want, with the exception of one area. Basically, you can progress as fast or as slowly as you want in this game without any repercussions. I like the animal feeding system a lot. Feeding the animals will regenerate any resources in the area, and I think that's a clever way of going about it. For now, I've seen all there is to do in the game, but I'm looking forward to new things being added to the game in the future. Mirth Melody is a very cute, cozy rhythm game that consists of 3 songs, playable on 2 difficulties, and a seagull you can interact with that will tell you fun things about objects you bring him. This definitely feels like a demo for the game Mirth Island, even though it is not said outright that it is. The last song, which is more of a rock song, does not really fit with the cozy theme, but is a banger nonetheless. The only negative thing I have to say about this free demo is that there is no sound settings. You cannot turn down the in-game volume. I did apply for the Mirth Island playtest, so if I get invited to that, I will review that as well. There will apparently also be an update soon enough, which will fix some issues and later on add more content to the game. Once more content has been added, I will definitely return to Mirth Melody. Monster Hunter Rise has a very high skill floor and can be quite difficult to get into. I recommend either watching some YouTube videos on this game or play with friends to lower that skill floor. Once you get the hang of the game a bit though, Rise is a very enjoyable game. The different monsters are fun to get the hang of, there's a bunch of extra quests to do beside the main hub and village quests, and there is a lot of different things to do aside from hunting monsters. Lately, this has been one of my favorite games to play with my friends. I'm very glad I gave this game another chance, and in my opinion it's worth the high skill floor. Fighting all of the different monsters is really fun and satisfying. I love that there's 2 different ways of ending the mission aside from failing. You can either kill or capture the monster you're fighting. This and the amount of different monsters change up the game a bit and make sure it doesn't get too repetitive. Unlocking new armor and weapons as a result really helps with the feeling of progression. I haven't gotten to the Sunbreak DLC yet, but I've heard a lot of great things about it. I'm definitely going to put a lot more hours in this game. Alright, I love Risk of Rain 2 a lot, but for the love of God, please don't get this DLC right now. Gearbox messed up big time. Luckily, they're trying to at least put out some fixes, but the game is still not in a good state. DLC survivors mechanics don't work properly, and existing survivors have gotten messed up. Some of the animations look very off, and there's a bunch of other stuff wrong with the game after this DLC came out. At least the new maps and new survivor skins are pretty, but I would have rather had a more polished yet delayed release than whatever this was. Watch any of the many YouTube videos on this topic if you want a more in-depth look of what's wrong with the game. It's very sad how Gearbox has been treating the franchise, but I'm happy they're starting to fix their mistakes. As of now though, until things are properly fixed, do not buy. Right now I am playing with an extensive mod list to counter all the new problems that were introduced to the game, but I don't recommend people do the same as me. Love this puzzle game. It combines zodiac signs with cats and made puzzles out of them. Each puzzle is such a beautiful piece of art, and I would love to own prints of them and display them in my house. I love that there's normal mode and hard mode. The hard mode makes sure you can't turn off your brain fully when playing zodiac cats. Each time you complete a puzzle, the game will tell you something about the zodiac sign you solved. The entire thing is just very pleasing to the eye, and this is why I also recommend you buy the supporter pack containing backgrounds for both your desktop and phone, as well as avatars you can use as profile pictures. This is absolutely a cozy game for me, and I'll definitely be looking for similar games. Highly recommend if you love puzzles, cats, zodiac signs, or a combination of those 3 things. Take care of your animals, save one if you can, and make sure to give them many pets for me. Stacklands is a much more entertaining card game than I thought it would be. It reminds me of a combination between a board game from my youth and a very addicting, satisfying gameplay loop with a fun storyline. Combining the cards and discovering new ideas and recipes is very entertaining and leaves you wondering what other cool combinations you can make. The card drops are based on chance, and sometimes getting what you want is quite difficult, but you will never really get stuck. You might get stuck with story progression like I did though, but if you do all of the to-do list items, everything will fall into place eventually. The story itself is very solid and fun to watch unfold. The bosses feel like a good challenge and really add to the gameplay variation of the game. The Cursed Worlds DLC is very fun and adds additional challenge that the base game does not have. I would highly recommend getting the DLC on top of the base game. This game is great for anyone who likes card games, and you should definitely give Stacklands a try. Drawful 2 is not part of any Jackbox party pack, but can still be played through the Jackbox Mega Picker. I would say this is an improvement from the original Drawful, since you can also choose to make your own prompts in this game, as well as use 2 different colors instead of just 1. It can be played with up to 8 people. It's quite fun to play if you and your friends are bored and can get some laughs out of you. If you own a second monitor or a drawing tablet, you should use that instead of your phone to draw on. The only complaint I really have is that some of the game's prompts are very strange and hard to draw. Overall, this is a solid drawful game from Jackbox. It keeps you and your friends entertained. Get this when it's discounted or even for free, like I did. Platform 8 is the short but fun prequel to the Exit 8. How do I know it's a prequel? One of the endings will show you why. It executes its horror elements okay. I would say Exit 8 is more scary since there's more things you need to look out for in that game. In this game, you walk through train carts with a man sitting in one of the train seats, some posters and some doors around the cart. You'll need to see if everything is normal, and if it is, you can go ahead and walk forward to the next train cart. If you notice something's off, you will have to deal with the anomalies in various creative ways. Certain anomalies, like the white lady and the camouflaged man running at me, gave me quite a few jump scares. This game is easier to complete without any guides than Exit 8 is, and I would recommend you go in blind. It's another fun game, especially if you stream it to friends and try to find the anomalies together. There's a total of 3 endings, and 2 of the 3 are very interesting ones in my opinion. Platform 8 allows for more free exploration than the Exit 8 and is definitely a must play if you enjoyed the Exit 8. Hue is a very interesting puzzle platformer that is based on the colors of the rainbow. Switch between the colors to solve a variety of puzzles and platformer sections. It gives you time to think, since the game slows down when you're choosing a color from your ring. The puzzles are cleverly designed, although the difficulty spikes quite a bit in the final area. The lore itself is quite interesting and philosophical. There are lore nodes scattered around the levels, all of which are unmissable, and as you progress through the game, it will become more clear on what Hugh's parents have been up to this entire time, and what Hugh's mission actually is. The one thing I would have liked more clarity on is Hugh's family situation. It's kind of unclear whether his parents are still together or not. There are also collectibles, which are very difficult to find and hidden in clever places. Overall, Hue is a very nice puzzle platformer that you should definitely play. Enter the Gungeon is a very fun roguelike bullet hell game. I'm really bad with bullet hells, but this one is addicting enough to even get me to keep playing. There's so much to do in the game, so many things to unlock, so many secrets to find. 4 different characters to play, 5 if you play local co-op. It is very fun to pick it up between lessons or on a work break, since runs don't take too long either usually. None of your runs will be the same because of all the aforementioned factors. Gungeon's art style is also very charming, and combined with the music, it's just a banger to play. This game plays fantastically on the Steam Deck too, so it's a great game to play on the go. I personally have not fully beaten the game yet, since it is very hard, but I don't plan to stop playing Enter the Gungeon for quite a while. If you like roguelikes, this is absolutely the game for you. This game has been on my wishlist for over a year, and I'm going to be honest, for a while I was very scared the game would be cancelled because there was no news or updates coming out for months. To my delight, I recently found out about the new demo for Tiny Bookshop, as well as the existence of a Discord server. Tiny Bookshop is very adorable and has very fun mechanics to play around with so far. I love that you can actually recommend books to customers if they ask, and as a result learn about new books while you're playing, which is awesome. I'll definitely find some books to add to my to-be-read list. There are so many customization options and also a bunch of different locations to visit. Having the newspaper to tell you about events, sales, and the weather is very clever, and having a journal as my to-do list is good. I love the vibes in Tiny Bookshop. I'm very excited for a full release, and it's definitely worth the wait. Golf with your friends looked really fun and promising, but unfortunately I was met with disappointment. The physics are very janky, not just for your golf ball, but also for its surrounding golf courses. I've had many instances where I got flung off the map after trying to gently push my way up the hill. Instead, I flew across the entire biome. There are certain parts of walls that don't behave like walls should. Same goes for cannons, stuff like that. Overall, the maps were disappointing. I rated them all, and I will link the YouTube video I will make about it once it's done, and I only enjoyed a few of the courses. On average, the courses received a 2.67 out of 5 for the base game and a 2.8 out of 5 including the DLCs. This translates roughly to a 5.5 out of 10. It is very mid overall, and if you like being goofy about minigolf with your friend group, by all means get this game when it's on sale. I think I would rather play Discord Golf though. But yeah, prepare to see a full review video on Golf with Your Friends next week. Monument Valley is a very cute point-and-click puzzle game. You play as Ida, and your job is to solve geometrical puzzles to return all geometric artifacts to their places. What's really interesting is that this game started out as a mobile game back in the day, but got ported to PC. It looks really great, and the environments are quite beautiful, and playing with your totem friend makes solving puzzles even better. It took me about 2.5 hours to complete all levels of the Panoramic Edition, which includes 2 DLCs, and in my opinion it was quite worth the money I paid for it. I got the bundle including the second game for €5.34. It's a fun little cozy puzzle game, perfect for on a day off. Monument Valley 2 is a great sequel to Monument Valley. The story is touching and more clear than its predecessor. The puzzles are fun to complete, especially the ones you do together with Ro and her daughter. It's still focused on geometrical puzzles, and the environments still look very beautiful. I loved the return of our totem friend, this time Blue Edition. I was quite sad to learn this game is shorter than the first game, but the puzzles were of good quality, so it's not a reason to not buy this one. I really recommend you buy the Panoramic Edition bundle to get both games, which I got for €5.34. This franchise is great, and I'm glad I stumbled across it. Unplagued is from the Garten of Ban devs. I wasn't expecting much. I like the premise of the game, the whole making potions thing and then curing the plagued village, but the delivery just isn't there. The game is janky, the physics really don't want to physics sometimes. The monster got stuck behind our carriage and could not get out for the entirety of the game. All in all, the game is just broken. I see the potential, but I cannot recommend it in its current state. Now, this is a Metroidvania done right. I love the art style of Death's Door, and the combat feels very smooth. Sometimes I wondered why I got hit while I was dodging, but that was probably a skill issue. The map is really good. I really enjoyed finding all of the secrets and hidden areas once I unlocked all of my skills. The true ending is definitely worth getting, as it has some of my favorite puzzles and secrets of the entire game. The only tedious part is finding all of the life seeds and their pots, since there is no in-game list to keep track of the ones you've already seen and found. A video guide will help you lots with this achievement. Something to note is that you cannot return to or redo the boss fights once you've beaten them in your save file, so that's something to keep in mind if you like to 100% games. The bosses themselves were really fun and all had very distinct attack patterns and personalities. I love the story and the lore of the game, and this is definitely a Metroidvania I highly recommend. We Were Here Expeditions: The Friendship is a very enjoyable puzzle game made for two. The puzzles are challenging to figure out at first, but are very much doable once you've figured them out. Teamwork is very much required as you are very dependent on your partner, but with some proper communication you will certainly get there. The walkie-talkies work alright, although for clarity reasons I did prefer to be on a call rather than use the walkie-talkies, because I have a tendency to accidentally talk over other people. There are only 3 puzzles, but for the price they are definitely worth it. I personally got the game for free in its launch week. It definitely interested me in the other games of the We Were Here franchise, so I'll keep an eye out for any sales. You're on a path in the woods, and at the end of that path is a cabin. And in the basement of that cabin is a princess. You're here to slay her. If you don't, it will be the end of the world. Slay the Princess is a visual novel game with horror elements where choices do matter, but not actually. There is no right or wrong path. It is one of the most detailed visual novels I've ever played, and the eeriness of certain princesses is just immaculate. Did you know that for the entire game only 2 voice actors were used? And yet every character feels very distinct from the others. Since the Pristine Cut update, there's been even more paths and endings to explore, and even after 10 hours, I still have only seen about half of the possible paths this game has to offer. I'm definitely going to try to see all of them. Everything is hand-drawn and both the art and music are really beautiful. The game's been on my radar since the end of 2023, and I'm glad I've finally gotten the chance to play it. Make sure you go in blind as much as possible, enjoy this cosmic horror romance story, and definitely go play it right now. I Am Your Beast is a very fun first-person shooter about revenge and survival. You play as Harding, a retired Secret Services agent who has been summoned by Birkins, but you refuse. What follows is Birkins trying to kill you in the forest you call your home. The voice acting in this game is so perfect. The story itself is great and has nice thriller elements to it, and the gameplay feels smooth and responsive. The comic book-like art style fits the vibes of the game very well. The only semi-negative thing I have to note as someone who is bad at first-person shooter games is that the story progression is locked behind performance in the levels. For example, you need an A rank in at least 3 levels to proceed at some point, but the game is forgiving enough that achieving it was not too hard. I like the non-canon challenge levels, at least the ones I have unlocked so far, and overall this is a very well polished game. I am very glad I played this game in February's Steam Next Fest. I highly recommend this game. Apart from these games, I have also played a little bit of other things. For example, I played Placid Plastic Duck Simulator's Rooftop 1% DLC when it came out. I also finished the main game of Monster Hunter Rise and started the Sunbreak DLC, so once I've played through that, I will also review that. I did the Deep Rock Galactic Rocktoberfests, and I'm also working on the Halloween events. And I also played a little bit of Donald Duck Going Quackers on my PlayStation 1, because I am so happy to be able to say this. I managed to fix my PlayStation 1 and hook it up to my TV. So you may see some old PlayStation 1 game reviews come up eventually. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye! This beta test was super cool, but it does leave me with some fears for the final product. The performance was horrendous and the multiplayer system is by far not in its final form. The monsters are very cool though, and the weapons seem to be pretty good. I like the wound system this game has going on, and our little raptor guy that we can mount is pretty neat. I was tempted to pre-order the game, but because of the aforementioned fears, I'm waiting till the first reviews start coming in to see how polished the game actually is on launch. I ran the benchmark and my PC should be able to run it just fine, but you never know what the game's state at launch will be. This might be one of those games where I'll wait a year or so before I buy it, because honestly Capcom really just needs to improve on a few things before I'm willing to play this. Web fishing is a silly little fishing game where you play as either a cat-like or a dog-like creature. The game has a lot of different customization options for your character, has some fun items to mess around with, and has a nice upgrade system. There's a lot of different fish to catch, which all have 6 different rarities as well, so there's always something to do in the game. And if you're just there to relax and hang out with friends or meet new people, that's a great option too. The game is fun, cute, and relaxing. You should totally get this game. Dome Keeper is a very fun roguelike game that combines mining and fighting off enemies in a very fun way. The upgrade trees related to your dome and your own upgrades feel balanced, and with the many different domes you can choose from, this game does not get boring. The cycle between mining resources and trying to find the relic feels good, not too long and not too short, and it's paced very well. With the amount of customization, think difficulty level, map size, challenges, etc., you can easily spend your whole day getting lost in the caves below your dome. Spore is a silly, goofy game. I like it, but it's also old, and it shows. Some mechanics are a bit clunky, but it doesn't take away from the fun of creating your own creatures and making your way through evolution. I haven't played all stages myself yet, but I've seen them all before on stream. Right now I'm in the tribal stage. I think my main issue with the game is that you have to point and click a lot, and sometimes the game does not register my inputs very well. Therefore things can get a bit frustrating sometimes. Overall, the game is great, just a bit dated. I think it's more fun when you stream it to someone else. Skull is a very fun roguelike game. I'm a sucker for a good roguelike platformer, and this has it all. The skulls are so diverse, and the magic and strength system is also pretty cool. I haven't beaten the game yet, since I think it's pretty difficult, but someday I'll get there. Watching someone with experience play this game is very fun, because the gameplay is just so smooth and satisfying. There's a lot going on, but once you get the hang of it, it's so enjoyable. There's hours of fun to be had in this game, because on each run you'll find something you haven't seen before. If you like Dead Cells, you should definitely play Skull. Cat Goose Fishing is a very old but very cute game. The mechanics are simple but fun to interact with. Certain fishies can be real bitches sometimes though, so I'm thankful for the repellent lures. There's a whole lot of different lures you can use to customize your fishing route with. There's also boat upgrades and things you can buy in the shop to make it easier to catch certain fish or to throw your rod further away. I love the kitty, they're so adorable. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to figure out how to catch certain fish by yourself, but that's part of the fun. With the semi-recent performance patch of July 2024, the game has seen major improvements. I love playing this when I'm just chilling with someone and we can catch the fishies while we chat. I like Unrailed, but it's definitely not perfect. The game is almost unplayable if you're by yourself, which makes sense, but also kind of sucks if your friends don't feel up for playing the game when you do. There's an option to play with a robot though, but it's kind of difficult to keep track of everything and also give it commands at the same time. There's a lot of fun mechanics, like having to throw water on the train to prevent it from setting itself on fire. It's enjoyable, but stressful. Definitely puts your friendships to the test. There's a bunch of fun upgrades you can get for your train as well. I would definitely play this again. There's also a sequel now, Unrailed 2 Back on Track, which is reviewed very positively on Steam. You might be better off buying that one, as I assume it will have some quality of life upgrades compared to this first Unrailed. Tabletop Simulator is cool from what I've seen so far. It's very fun to be able to play tabletop games with my friends this way. This is great for online friends who you can't physically play tabletop games with. I've only played one game apart from Solitaire on here so far, but there's a billion different things you can play here, a bunch of DLCs you can buy from Tabletop Simulator yourself, or 1,000 workshop items you can add to the game. There's something for everyone. Good recommendation to anyone who likes playing tabletop games with friends.